opt-out deadline is March 4th, as you all probably know better than I do. But we have not had any indication as to what he's going to do other than what his process will be, which is to speak with us, likely speak with some other teams and investigate what the market will provide for him. You know, Alex, in fairness to him, it's important that he come back, understands what his role is going to be with the organization and our vision for winning. And we had good discussions, you know, both Hugh and I separately with Alex about how we go about winning in Cleveland, and then also, you know, what his role would be in that. He also spent some time with Hal Hunter to understand kind of what day-to-day would be like in that whole line room and that practice and what we're expecting of him. And so Alex obviously is a very talented center, been a guy who's been a stalwart on our offensive line for a long time. And you know, we'll see kind of what his decision ends up being.
So if he opts out, are you prepared to try to go at him and get a new deal worked out?
My estimation would be if he's going to be in Cleveland, we'll get to a deal before his opt-out day.
Oh, so you can renegotiate that before he...
Sashi, what are your opinions of the two big-name quarterbacks, Wentz and Goff? How much work have you done on them personally? And then when we hear stuff about small school and hand size, how do you guys weigh that in?
Yeah, good. You can get distracted by a lot of different information, Scott. And the main thing we do is watch the tape, watch them play under pressure, how they perform. We do spend some time with them here. We think there's a number of good quarterbacks in the draft. It's probably not as robust a draft class at quarterback as some prior drafts have been, but as you learn, hindsight's always, you know, the easier way to evaluate a draft class. And so we'll do everything we can at that position and many others to figure out whether Goff, Wentz, Lynch, you know, any of these other guys out there, Sudfeld and others that are being discussed are the right fit for the Browns and what we need from that position. But too early to make a final conclusion, and as you know, I won't be able to tell you too much about who we really are.
Speaking of those measurables, Hugh said that hand size is important because when you're in AFC North, you're playing in snow, you're playing in rain.
Yeah.
Goff
I'm up in Boston, and this is my hand, so I know that well too.
So with Goff having 9-inch hands, is that a problem? Is that a deal breaker?
No, I mean, this came up, I think, with Bridgewater too, about, you know, wearing a glove, not wearing a glove, hand size, playing cold or not. You get a sense of that. You can watch it. If a guy can throw a ball in college, he'll be able to throw it with the pros. And I don't think that'll be a problem for Jared, but it's something that you do look at. All these measurements and things you can get distracted by, and the important thing is just to understand, not to divorce yourself with what's most important. How did they play on Saturdays? You know, for the last 2-3 years in college, we played well as a number of these guys did. So, you know, we'll look at that, but not way too heavily.
I know you don't want to panic about these free agents possibly leaving in that, but is there a concern that, you know, when you're trying to put a team together and minimize the amount of holes that you have to fill to begin with, if you don't keep some of these guys, that you're going to end up having to fill even more of those holes on the roster?
Yeah, I think Hugh said it yesterday. You know, while we're not panicked, we'd love to have back. You know, talk to Mitch's guy, Travis's guy. We met last night here, had a good conversation with him. Trav and I text back and forth.
So talks there haven't broken down. Sorry to interrupt you, but okay.
No, I know much is recorded, and this is a season to report on things. But part of the process here is, you know, where are things, and people want to know answers. But it really is, you know, I think for us through the combine, and we're behind 2 or 3 weeks, and I apologize to Mitch and Alex and Trav and all those guys, just the unavailability when you're on a coaching search and trying to identify the coach. You're not able to spend as much time as we would have liked focusing on our rising UFA's extensions. But they're all talented guys, can contribute. Craig Robertson, you know, Tank, but Batty, all those guys are people that we'll be in touch with and see if we can get some things done here in short order. But we won't be panicked if we end up with not some of those guys back, and we'll have a good plan to move forward. We do have a number of young players on the roster. As Hugh said, it's next man up always.
There's so much cap room league-wide. I mean, do you acknowledge that you might have to go beyond what you anticipated maybe when you started negotiating with these guys last season?
I think whenever a player's not done early, you know, traditionally there's some discount that a player's willing to take, and then a team, you know, is afforded for signing a player early. I think key for us, Tony, is that we identify our talent early, understand the role that they play in the system, and get deals done prior to this time. You know, I spent the last 2 or 3 off seasons, you know, pounding out and really the strain on the negotiation process at this time when a guy's right on the fringe of free agency is not the ideal time to be negotiating these contracts. We will, with earnest, you know, continue to push forward to try to bring back, you know, the several players that I talked about. But certainly, I think moving forward, we hope to identify these guys a lot earlier than we have in the past.
And your comments on Josh were interesting. Has the team as a whole made the decision that if he's reinstated, he's back with the team?
We'll need to still have our own kind of discussion with Josh, figure out what he wants to do and be here. Our anticipation is that he would be open to it, but we're so limited in our communication with him. Sorry, I can't give more insight. We're really curious as to what you know, Josh's mindset will be when he gets back. Our player personnel director is allowed to have limited communications with him, but that's really it. So Hugh and I will sit down with him and have that conversation at the time, Paul and others. And you know, he's got a great environment in which to come back. Al Saunders, Hugh Jackson, guys that have, you know, coached some really successful wide receivers in the league. And so you know, I'm hopeful that Josh has, you know, as a person, you know, made the strides that he set out to make, and can come back and contribute. Hopefully on Sunday will be a bonus for us.
When it comes time to pro days for quarterbacks, do you anticipate going and DePodesta and Andrew along with the coaches?
We haven't yet assigned exactly who will go to pro days. I will undoubtedly go to some, but not all. And we'll divvy it up to make sure that we understand who's going where and why, target some of the players that we're interested in the draft. But Tony, it's really a better opportunity rather than evaluate the players to maybe answer questions that you have about some players you're certain about. Whether or not you have a couple players that are, you know, on your draft board very similar to others, and you want to try to separate them with another look and touch, or to go and answer some questions about background, character, mental makeup, so on and so forth. But going to University of Florida to watch another 40 isn't necessary.
No, but I mean these top quarterbacks in particular.
Yeah, we'll go see those guys.
I want. You have to have a real comfort level that, like even Roger Goodell said about Josh Gordon, that he needs to know that he's not going to repeat this having behavior once he gets reinstated.
Right.
Is that going to be the #1 criteria for you when you guys sit down with him to make sure that he's moving forward, not going to get suspended again?
Yeah, I think that's probably like a bottom line kind of question, but I think for Josh, it's really substantively where he is as a person. You know, and as I understand it, it's been reported back to me through folks that have been in contact with Josh and seen him throughout the offseason, including his representatives. Josh is, you know, taking it seriously and he's learned from his mistakes. He's serious about wanting to be a pro and be one of the best wide receivers in the game. And so I think if he's done all the things to, you know, put himself in that position and clean up some of the mistakes in the past, then certainly we would welcome him back. And as I said, I think it's going to be a tremendous environment for him to reestablish himself. So, you know, I wouldn't characterize it with Kay as simply, is he just not going to be suspended? Again, we want him to come in and be competitive, be a great teammate, be a great member of the community, be a great proving ground.
Sashi, where do things stand with Gibson? Because I mean, you mentioned him in there as you know, you don't think he'll use the tag, but a candidate for that, but you hope for a long-term deal. So what's the level of optimism that can happen?
Yeah, I'm not going to go into specifics on any one player. I think with Alex, more so on the process. We are in contact with him, and we'll see if we're able to sign him.
Sashi, when you evaluate these quarterbacks coming out, do you think the organization's in a position where you could wait on a guy that he doesn't have to start right away, or do you guys have a plan like, let's put this guy in right away and see what we can do?
I think we'll evaluate the player if we select a quarterback as to whether he's ready to play early and what's around him. And Josh is a guy who provides us that luxury of an account in terms of his leadership experience, his ability to onboard, you know, a young quarterback. Austin as well provides us, and Connor's on the roster as well. So we're not in any panic or rush to find a guy that's got to go out there and play right away. And so we hope to have, you know, the most talent possible at that position. It may come through adding, someone through free agency or the draft. It may be a guy that's on our roster. So I'm confident Hugh's ability to develop all the quarterbacks on our roster with Pep to make sure that they're well positioned so that we can win on Sunday come forward.
All right, thanks.